Get this figure and more at Lunar Toy Store. Hey, my name is Jobby, and today we're talking about Beast Wars! Beast Wars was a 90s spin-off of Transformers, where instead of turning into vehicles, they all turned into different animals. And back in the 90s, this was my favorite thing ever. But I gotta be honest, Cheetor, also known as Cheetus, was never my favorite character. He was basically the Beast Wars equivalent of Bumblebee, the young, reckless, bright yellow kid character, and that kind of character type never appealed to me. So when I heard that Cheetor was gonna be the next Masterpiece Beast Wars figure after Optimus Primal, I was a little disappointed. I would have much rather had a Masterpiece Dinobot. Well, would you look at that? But after having this figure right in front of my face, holy mother of Primus fuck. But before we jump in, I do have to point out that out of the box, this guy comes out as a cheetah. But because I filmed the transformation sequence from robot to cheetah, and by then it was too late to change it, we're here now. Put in my head. The painting and the sculpting on this figure is A+. Takara Tomy sweeps me off my feet again, producing an uncannily show-accurate figure. Just like the Optimus Primal figure before it, this figure is a spitting image of how he appears in the TV show. Right down to the low-res textures and these golden circles having straight edges, because I'm assuming it was easier to render. The shiny metallic gold and shiny metallic blue complement each other so perfectly, and it makes this figure one of the most vibrant and show-stopping pieces in my collection. So much so that it even caught the attention of my dad. He walked into the room and said to me, "Son, get the fuck out of my house." And he also says something about how the figure looked cool. I don't know, I couldn't tell through my tears. But the fact that almost 80% of the figure is painted comes at the terrible cost of easy paint chipping, which unfortunately has been a real issue with modern Masterpiece figures. I would suggest that less parts be painted, but I don't really know how that would work engineering-wise. That's why I don't work for Takara and I'm playing with toys on camera. It's gonna pay off one day, Dad! So the paint may be delicate, but the figure feels extremely solid. Maybe a little too tight in some spots, but better to be too tight than... The face sculpt is great, but for a youthful kid character, why does he look kinda creepy? The beautiful light piping doesn't help in that regard, but maybe his alternate faces are a little less creepy. Nope. But the creepiness is no fault of the figure, this is completely show accurate. Uncanny Valley aside, this smirking face is enjoyably in character, and the shock face is, well, shocked. It's great. Alternate faces are one of the best things to happen to Transformers because, hey, Transformers have personalities too, Michael Bay. But what if God was real? He's also got a few more accessories, but of course, these come into play later. First of all, you get a nice thick card, and you get a gun. Before you get him to hold his guns, you have to move these arm guards out of the way. That plugs into his hand with these tabs, and that is a solid connection. I don't know the official name of this weapon, but I always called it the Gut Blaster, because those are quite literally the cheetah's guts. Actually, this meme is stupid. And you get a rifle, which I always like to call the Butt Blaster, because quite literally, yeah, this is the cheetah's butt. There's a little handle here that slides into his hand, but it's not the most solid connection. So you got the guts, and you got the butt. Poo-poo. And if Cheetor's not using the weapons, he can always store them on his back. Completely unnecessary feature, but highly appreciated. Now, a great thing about this figure is that the forward movement on the arms allows him to hold his guns with two hands. And this extreme upward movement allows him to do a sniping pose. Technically, his head is on a ball joint, but there's no head pivot to speak of. Tight rotation at the arms, hinge joint here, arm moves out to here, double bend at the elbow, up and down at the wrist, hinge joint at the fingers, hinge at his Cheetus, rotation at the leg, can rotate back that far, beautiful spread, double bend at the knee, feet can move down, a beautiful pivot, and a toe bend. Now aside from the paint chipping, I noticed another consistent issue with Masterpiece figures. Can we please have an ankle swivel? But besides that, the poseability is pretty good. There's even a little hole that you could plug a stand into. And in this case, I'm using a Bandai Tamashii activator. So the box of this figure was surprisingly quite small, but the figure inside was bigger than I expected. Here's Madagascar's Prime, Deluxe Class Generations Rat Trap, Voyager Class Rhinox, and the Masterpiece Optimus Primal. These Masterpiece Beast Wars figures are bad for my health because they keep bringing me back to my childhood. I'm trying to grow up, damn it. So the robot mode is excellent, and the cheetah mode is just as good. Almost. we have the Beast Mode. The engineering on this thing is brilliant. The fact that you can get a fairly thick robot mode and stretch him out into a slender cheetah, it just makes me wonder, what the fuck were they even doing? The proportions on this guy, the silhouette, it nails the feel of the character from the show. But as I implied earlier, it's not perfect. But unlike Optimus Primal, where all the kibble was on the back, the kibble on this figure is pretty consistent throughout the whole mode. At first it was a little upsetting, but you really gotta be grateful that the figure's engineered to even this degree. I really don't see what else they could have done. And I just gotta accept that any future Masterpiece Beast Wars figures are gonna have the same issue with their beast modes. Let's just hope it's not to that extent. However, I do have to give major props to the integration of the weapons. It's pretty much seamless except for the seams, and I have to get it out of the way. That had to be intentional, right? With all the kibble on this mode, at least they did something funny with it. But what I could safely say is perfect on this mode is the head. First of all, genius idea for the robot cheetah head to be a fake. And second of all, my god is this full of character. I just wish the paint didn't chip so easily. For as many times as I transformed this figure, I would have expected his plastic whiskers to be messed up. But thankfully no. I'm glad they're here. And to get even more personality, you get a snarling face and a shocked face. As much as I love all these head sculpts, I feel he's sorely missing a smiling face. And if the eyes seem weirdly pronounced, that's because his eyes are interchangeable. I'm really hoping they include this feature with future Beast Wars figures because goddamn it's cool. His eyes aren't the only things that could move around. The neck can extend, which allows it to move up and down, and some side to side. Rotation at the shoulder blades, rotation at the shoulder proper, leg moves out, very tight bicep swivel, bend at the elbow, up and down at the paw, a paw pivot, this mid joint is too loose, hinge joint, and his back legs have the same poseability as the robot leg, plus a hinge joint here, up and down at the paw, and sadly no pivot. Why include a pivot at the front if you're not gonna put it on the back, motherfucker? But a minor issue that I have is that he's always spilling his guts, which is not too much a problem as long as you don't look at his belly, but it is a problem when you're trying to get him on a stand. Let's just say this was a nightmare off camera. The amount of posability on this mode comes as a shock, because most beast modes tend to be glorified bricks. Now I don't have another Cheetor figure to compare this with, but it almost feels like the cheetah mode is bigger than the robot mode. Godzilla Prime, Rat Trap, Rhinox, Optimus Primal. Well, bend me over and call me Cheetus, this figure's amazing. Having this guy alongside Optimus Primal is a Beast Wars fan dream come true, and the figure itself is top notch. I just wish the Karatomi would get its act together when it comes to paint chipping, cause I wanna play with this thing forever. And if you wanna play with your own Cheetor forever, why don't you get him at the Lunar Toy Hall? They've got a great Transformer selection, and Cheetor specifically is a really good price. I'm really glad to have Lunar Toy Store back at my side, and I hope you are too, go check them out. But as quickly as they come back, they go away. Spoilers, worth it.